Thanks for tuning in to the Real Women Chronicles podcast. I am your international certified life coach, Tiadra Taylor. The sole purpose of this podcast is to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. Yes, it's time to break chains and to get unstuck. Thanks again for joining in. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining me yet again another week. I am Coach T, your host, certified life and relationship coach. Listen, y'all, I am just blessed to be able to continue to pour into my listeners. Thank you to each and every one of you guys who take the time out of your day to listen to my 10 to 15 minute spill. Sometimes it goes on longer if I have a guest, but I really, truly appreciate it. I'm thankful to all of you who have downloaded the podcast. We are on podcast something 80 something. I don't know the exact number right now, but we are almost at podcast number 100. And I'm not even going to lie, when I initially did my very first podcast years ago, I would have never thought that this podcast would have grown to this magnitude. So I am super thankful, and it's only going to continue to grow and get better and all of that good stuff. But for now, I am going to coach and motivate you guys on the topics that I am led to motivate on. And that's all I can do. I can't mimic anybody else's podcast. I just have to do what God has called me to do and stay in my lane. So that being said, today I wanted to address the topic of attracting the right mate. Because I think many of us who are in this single realm of the world have to ask ourselves that question every now and again, right? We have to ask ourselves, how do I attract the type of mate that I actually want? And so the first thing that I want to let you know is this. We actually don't attract what we want. We attract who we are. So before we go out there jumping around looking for your Boaz or looking for your virtual woman, you have to first ask yourself this: who am I? Do I expect more from others than I do from myself, right? Because you'd be surprised how many folks will demand things, right, from others that they don't even possess. Asking people to be loyal to them and they don't even possess loyalty in themselves. Asking people to be patient with them. And their patience is as thin as a piece of paper. So it's important to really, really identify, who am I? Because ultimately I'm going to attract that which I am. And there's no way around this, guys. I know you hear the love stories that say, oh, I was this way and this person came and saved me. No, you attract who you are, your innermost being, even the person that you may not want other people to see. And that's the thing we have to understand when it comes to attracting and manifesting that person that we want. See, God has an interesting way of aligning us, right, with people who will often challenge us in the areas in which we're struggling in, right? So what'll happen is sometimes you may, let's just say that you're short-tempered or you struggle with patience. It wouldn't be surprising that your mate ends up being someone who often tests your patience, because we also attract people into our lives that help us to grow into the person that God wants us to be. And this is why I say so many times, this is why some people are only seasonal. Sometimes God is trying to get you to a certain level. And this person comes along, they teaches you, they're used by God to teach you valuable lessons. And then their season is over and it's time for you to go into the spring, right? Winter is over and it's time for you to go into the spring. And that's okay, because God does bring people into our lives that often challenges us and helps us to grow in areas that we need to grow in. But here's the thing. Pay attention to your innermost being. What I mean by that is pay attention to, let's just say, the things that you're still struggling with. Because often the people that you attract will, in some way, shape, or form, they're going to exhibit characteristics that will be almost a mirror reflection of you. Have you ever seen when the insecure woman finds the insecure man, or vice versa? Or have you ever found that an insecure person is often drawn to the confident friend or the confident mate that are showing all of these characteristics that they don't possess, but they want, right? This is the thing. How you attract people that come into your life is all about you and less about them. And that's one of the things that I'm glad that I learned as I got older, and I just coach on it, pushing in everybody's life. It is so not about the people, guys. Like, I know we talk about and we coach about choosing the right person. And yes, that is definitely a important part of it. But really, the most important part of it is being the right person. Are you the type of person that you want to attract? Because ultimately, like I tell you guys in many other podcasts, attraction is all about energy. So like energy will attract like energy. So when we complain about the type of people we're constantly attracting, we really have to take a look in the mirror and just check ourselves. Many people don't know who they are, and they look for other people to tell them who they are. I've literally gone through this so often with me being a coach, with me being a motivator. I can honestly attest to the fact that I have attracted men who weren't sure about who they were, right? And it almost became my duty to coach them and show them who they are, right? But then I also had to say to myself, is that something I really want to attract at the end of the day? Do I want to attract a man who doesn't necessarily know who he is, and he doesn't necessarily know how to walk into his kingship? And at this point in time, I had to say, okay, I don't want to attract these type of men. So let me start to evaluate what it is in me that makes me want to talk and want to, build these men up. Because at my age, we really don't want to sit around and really continuously build a person up. I love motivating people. But in order for me to have a strong mate by my side, he has to know his place in his manhood. And I'm not saying that us women can't come along and we can't help a man reach his destiny. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if we're constantly attracting men or women that have no clue who they are, and they're just waiting for somebody to say, hey, I love you, let me tell you who you are, that's a problem. Because any person that gets in a relationship and conforms into what you want them to be will later resent you. Because once they get tired of becoming and being what you want them to be, they get frustrated. And rightfully so, because God made us all to be different. He didn't make any one of us to, in the same image as the other person, right? So if I just come into your life and I say, hey, you should do this, you should follow your dreams, you should become this, and you should make money this way, and this is how you should be moving, and you just conform, then what's going to happen is eventually resentment sets in a lot of relationships. And that's the thing that's the danger about being interconnected and attracting people who don't know who they are. And let's just, on the flip side, let's talk about the secure people. Okay. It is uncomfortable for a bold and confident person to be with an insecure person. I'm never going to say it's impossible because I'm not God. But I can tell you this, it's highly uncomfortable for a secure, healthy person to be with an insecure person. Most don't attract them because the confident person will often lose interest in the insecure person, because we all know insecurity comes with a lot of traits. And people think, I just have to jump off topic for a second. People think that insecurity is only shown in the man or woman who pleads for a relationship, who's so afraid to lose a person that they're questioning them and they're constantly, looking for affirmation. But let me tell you where insecurity is shown greatest. It is shown greatest in the person who will often put a guard up. And we think that by putting that guard up and by having the ability to continuously cut people off, that we're showing that we're confident. But let me tell you a little secret that I've learned. Is that sometimes your ability to continuously cut people off is because you feel like eventually you're going to be the one that cuts off. And you've lived this experience so much that you try to beat them to the punch. And I'm not saying that applies to everyone, but insecurity can be shown in the person who does the cutting off as well. It can be shown there. And I can honestly attest to the fact that was one of the ways that I dealt with my insecurity. I felt like, hey, if you're going to, you're probably going to eventually leave anyway. Let me go ahead and cut you off and save some time. Oh, I dealt with that my entire 20s. And it's a terrible place to live, because guess what? You have to love yourself enough to know that regardless of how this ends, I'm going to be okay. But back on topic, I definitely want to say that any person who is unsure of themselves will often have a problem convincing anybody else to be sure of them as well. So when we're talking about attraction, we have to keep that in mind, right? If you're unsure of yourself, if you're insecure about your looks, it's going to be hard to convince other people that you're pretty dope. And me being a motivator, it's hard for me to sit around and tell somebody the gifts that they have and they possess within themselves when they don't see them themselves, because naturally, as human beings, we begin to see the same reflection that you're seeing. Have you guys ever, and this of course is a rhetorical question, but have you guys ever come across someone who you thought was absolutely amazing, and then you get to talking to them and they're picking their own flaws away and you're like, oh wow, I didn't even notice these things about you, but now that you pointed them out, I feel the same way you feel. Again, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. So if you are an insecure individual, what's going to happen is that person that you attracted is eventually kind of going to feel insecure about your insecurities as well. And that's the thing that we really have to understand. It doesn't have to only pertain to the negative aspect of things, right? We can also use the same logic in your favor. If you exhibit love, you will attract love. Again, you attract what you become. So if you want true, authentic love, you possess it. If you want somebody that's going to be loyal, you exhibit that loyalty. You feed the universe the things that you want fed back to you. What you put into this life, you are sure to get back. Some people call it karma. I call it the law of attraction. So now I want you to ask yourself, what are you getting back? And what are you putting out? Because ultimately, everything that you're getting back is a mere reflection of who you are. Okay? So that is my spill.